there was a lot there. And if you didn't get to read it yet, that makes good sense. So we'll talk about what we're going to do. As far as minutes, Chad let me know, or he let everyone know that he's going to get them to us next week, and no
I
problem.
sent them already. I
Oh,
sent them.
you did?
I sent them 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Good. Oh, you're sneaky. Oh,
Just squeaked
Okay.
in. Nice job.
I will be honest and say, obviously, I didn't read them because I didn't know they were, but did people get a chance to read them, or should we just approve them next week? I mean, in 2 weeks. We'll approve them then, but thank you. Thank you, Chad. Really appreciate you stepping up to do that from the beginning. Okay, so we have a couple draft plans in front of us. Thank you, John and Rachel. It looks like it's really taking shape. That's because we've all been writing it so carefully, right? No, we appreciate that you guys have written this. And I know that today we're supposed to review the draft plan, but I also know that many of us just got it yesterday, although some of it is not new at all. So I guess the question is, how would we like to do it? I had a thought that maybe John and Rachel, if you want to just hit some highlights, and to the extent anyone has read or has comments, they can, but that maybe we could have a real deadline for giving you comments on this, which would give people time to read it. And I also just want to distinguish, because it's so confusing, although maybe not to this group, that SCROG has done one thing and we have done another, and both will be printed, but ours is what we're going to bring to approve. So I would say, to the extent that you're focusing on really giving comments or thoughts, it would be on the one that John and Rachel have given us. And the one thing I wasn't sure is that one doesn't reference our KG, I think that's at all. And maybe that's appropriate because it's not theirs. But when we were just talking about the people that we've gone through, and, certainly we did do a survey with them. Some of those results are somewhere in here. I don't totally care, but I just thought maybe we should mention them. Yeah. Al, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I think I have a procedural question to direct to Aaron, and it's about this second report from SCROG. Is the SCROG report part of this committee's report? Or asking another way, how does the SCROG report get to the public and to the selectmen, and what's its status in relation to the committee's report, which is what the selectmen asked for?
Right. So the committee initially was working with SCROG.
Yeah.
And participating in this plan. So I think that was the early buy-in with SCROG's. They had this idea to do regional plan and help provide these services to their municipalities. I think, however, as we moved forward in that process, it was the committee's decision to move in another direction with a more detailed focus on Madison. And so that's where we brought in Tyche and decided to make a Madison specific plan. And so the goal would be to bring this plan that the committee has been working on in depth to the board and adopt that as our plan. It's likely to be consistent with the RKG plan, but the town does not have to adopt the SCROG plan.
I like your answer, Aaron. I just want to make sure we don't inadvertently confuse the public. And if this second plan is floating around, I can see that some members of the public will manage to get confused when we're talking about the affordable housing plan. So I'm not quite sure what I'm suggesting here, but I'm trying to avoid having two plans running around in the public domain, both of which are labeled affordable housing plan for Madison. And whether we make the SCROG plan simply an appendix to our report or present it in some other way at some other time, I just think if both plans come forward at once, it will inevitably confuse some people.
I agree. And it wasn't my intention to bring the SCROG plan forward. So they've provided it to us. But I think at this point, we can decide what you want to do with it. I mean, we could have it on the shelf as a reference material as we move forward with a permanent committee. But it does not necessarily have to be one that's brought to the public at the same time. And it can, I guess, be, I haven't read through the entire document. It's a little lengthier than I anticipated. And it just did come yesterday. But it really is up to Madison how we want to move forward. I think my initial thoughts were that we were just going to move forward with the Tyche plan as our adopted plan and leave the other one just as a reference. I mean, we participated in the process and it likely will provide us with some useful information. A lot of it is similar information that's in our plan now. I have to look through and see what they wrote for goals and policies, things like that. But basically, we fed them our work that we've already been doing. So I'm hopeful that it's in there. But I agree. I think we need only one plan at this point, and I don't really want to bring the SCROG plan forward at this point.
Although, Al, I understand what you're asking, which is whether you want one plan or not. We have two. And so I definitely hear what you're saying. And it has been a concern ever since I realized, oh, they're still writing it. So I think you're right. It's not about us, it's about there will be these two plans floating out there. And so it is bizarre. And maybe the easiest way to answer it is that we do exactly as you suggested, and we put the Madison plan as an appendix, and we have a note before that says that there were consultants hired by SCROG to do many regions, and they helped do Madison. And then we wanted a more specific Madison plan. So this is our Madison plan that we've adopted, and this is what SCROG has created. And maybe if we link them, as silly as that is, it will avoid the confusion of somebody finding one and the other. Now, to be honest, I haven't read the goals. So it may be that it won't matter if the two of them are floating out, if they're, almost the exact same thing. But I do think at least linking them so that we acknowledge there was a second plan, I think that makes sense. Do others have a thought on that?
Al, when you were saying add it as an appendix, add the SCROG plan as an appendix to ours, right? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, this is your decision to make as a committee.
But that was your suggestion. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could come up with. And if it's possible to give a slightly different title to the SCROG document, somehow remove the word plan and use the word study, something like that. So that I'm just trying to minimize confusion. And I know from the past, people will get confused if there are two plans out there.
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, out there is kind of a general statement. I mean, out there means it was sent to Heather and I. So that's as out as it is right now. And it was sent to, and I passed it along to the committee. SCROG will likely have it on their website. But as far as the formally adopted plan, that's at our discretion where we want to post the SCROG plan or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
I guess I agree with Sarah. We might reference that we use some of the resources of SCROG, but then not attach it. I don't know that it'll find its way into the public domain that much. I mean, it might, but you got to have somebody pretty curious to go looking at SCROG and trying to find our plan. But I don't know.
I agree with you, Peter. I was concerned that this document might formally be presented by SCROG to the selectmen or to the public, and that even if we didn't give notice to the plan, that somehow it would nevertheless achieve some public status. So I'm encouraged what Erin said, that maybe it doesn't need to see the light of day, and that Scrog has no intention of publicizing their plan in our community.
No, I mean, Scrog is, clearly they're trying to be helpful to us as a municipality. And they, and I think initially they thought that their plan would be the one that we adopted, but the town went in a different direction and wanted to focus more specifically. And perhaps that was, at the time, didn't realize the depth that Scrog would be going into with individual plans. Maybe there was an assumption that it was more of a regionally based plan, which kind of led us down this path of creating our own. And that's fine. And Scrog knows that. They're well aware that we are working on a separate plan as well. But I think their point was to present it to the committee, and then it's up to the municipalities. They weren't going to force that down or plan to do any outside presentations without our consent.
I guess I would just say, I think, Aaron's right. As a practical matter, is it going to be so in so many places? I do think, though, because it's 13 or 15 regions together, I could see a reporter, looking and reading through this, or OCA, some of these nonprofits who are going to be interested in these plans, picking it up. And it's not that big a deal. But what I would say is, number one, I think the members of this committee should read through the Scrog plan carefully, because maybe it's all the same things and we don't have to worry about that. That's number one. And number two, I just think to the extent we can clarify both in our document and possibly also in theirs, that we have a different one that was passed, that might be all we need. It could be a little footnote on the Madison plan in theirs that says, this has not been adopted, and that, see this plan. And similarly, we could reference theirs, and we don't necessarily need to provide it. I will say what caused us to go down that road was we were so sorely disappointed with the survey, sort of all of us were, that we became concerned because we felt like the survey questions so missed the mark, and it was really important for us to hear Madison's voice. So I think I could probably clear this up with a conversation with Scrog, and maybe they'd even be willing to put in a little footnote that says we have our own plan, but they've done this as a study or whatever, without in any way insulting them. So let's see what we can do with that, so that at least if somebody is doing the research to read these things, they understand what's going on. But as a practical matter, I'm with you, Erin.
Well,
yeah.
And Sarah, there will be an executive summary in the beginning of the plan, and I think that might just be a nice little spot you can reference that. The committee also worked on a regional level with Scrog as they went through their regional process. So the document you have it begins at section 1 with the introduction, but there's going to be a little blurb, a few paragraphs about what your process was and your thoughts. And that might be a great spot in the beginning of the plan, just to reference, how we
You're talking about the Madison, our
Yes.
plan.
Yes, our
I
plan.
got you. Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe we could get it referenced in both. So fine. Okay. But thank you, Elle, for bringing that up. I'll make a note to talk to them this week, to talk to Scrog and see if they have, suggestions of what they feel comfortable doing. As far as reviewing the plan, since most of us didn't get a chance to, is it worth it? I feel like when we send this committee back to read something and give comments, we don't all do it. And I'm just as guilty of that. And I know John and Rachel need to be done. And as obviously the next item is the joint meeting to present it. And I think that was Aaron's way of saying, we got to get this done. So I guess I'm wondering, I'd like to hear from all of you. I mean, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could just say a few of us are reading it over and giving comments. Obviously, this isn't the time to give super detailed, changing everything kind of comments, but this is the typos. This is things that still don't quite make sense that we could clean up the language. We could have a special meeting, but I'm not sure if all of us talking our comments at you guys is that helpful. What do people feel? Do they think that, do you feel, I mean, as you can imagine, feel happy going through the whole plan and giving you some track change comments. And I could just commit to doing that this weekend, so you could get it on Monday, and I won't do, extensive. What do people feel like? Do you feel like you would like to spend
Yeah.
a week with it, or yeah?
Sarah, if I could just kind of help with this question. So the text language that has been provided to you is an update from the last batch that was given to you, the draft narrative. And I think that draft was March 14th. And then that copy that you had was after Peter, Sarah, and Aaron Duquesne and I went through and tracked comments. And so those changes were made by Rachel. They were already provided to the committee at least a couple weeks ago. So then the draft text came back with a few other items, namely the changes were information regarding our summary results, a discussion about our summary, and also incorporated in the draft policies and goals and the timeline, priorities and who's going to tackle those items. So that's the new information that's been added since this last text you've received. So at this point, and actually this plan that you're getting, I went through it again yesterday or the day before and made some markups also. So this is a secondary revision. So we're hoping that at this point, the only parts that really you shouldn't have read through yet would be those parts at the end with the goals and policies, just their design and structure, and then the discussion on the survey. Everything else we should have already read through at least once on a committee level. And really we're looking for not huge detailed revisions at this point. I think we've kind of ironed out a lot of that. It's nice to have everybody read through and just make sure that it reads well, and that the items where you wanted to add a little more specific, numbers that reflect to Madison to kind of give that picture of what affordability looks like in Madison. Just make sure that it generally, if you were a member of the public, that you can understand how we're tracking through the plan.
So Aaron, it seems to me we need to turn this around. We've got what, 4/16 is when it's got to go to planning and zoning? So
yes, so we can, let's talk about timeframe. So we also, aside from the text, we provided, Rachel did a little sample of a layout to get some feedback. That's modeled after the old Saybrook look. So basically, just so you can kind of see how we're going to run things through and plug in all of that text. I do have some photos I need to share with Rachel also. But yeah, I think looking at, just an okay that we're going in the right direction with the layout. And then if you have any final comments for the text, I think it would be nice to have a special meeting if people are available next Friday for, same time kind of a thing. So that the goal is to have a final draft in format for the committee to look at next week for Friday. I know that's pushing Rachel a little bit, but I think, is that still okay, Rachel?
Yeah, that's totally fine. It's okay.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. And I only mention a Friday because that's kind of our routine that we've been in, our Friday mornings. But then we did kind of Lauren polled Board of Selectmen, and I polled the Planning and Zoning Commission. Peggy had thought it would be a nice idea to have a joint meeting where the committee can present the plan and have the boards read through it and see if they had any feedback initially before it went out for public comment. It seemed that the April 13th in the evening was a good time for those groups. I'd like to know if that works for the committee as well. Clearly, if it doesn't work for at least several of you, we may have to look for another date. But that the timing was planned to to keep on track for a 35-day public notice period, because it seems that the Board of Selectmen would like to have a public hearing, excuse me, prior to the adoption of the plan. So that starts to push us back into April a bit in order to have an end of May adoption. So yeah, we're kind of looking at the next 2 weeks of trying to squeeze everything in to at least have a draft to present the public so that they can start reading something to provide comment ahead of the hearing. Not to say any amendments can't come during that process, but at least we have something that we're pretty comfortable with.
And Aaron, would
So
that
Aaron,
mean?
I just want to say the timeline is very clear. And Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt that. So I would like to just hear people's comments as to, how we want to do this. I do understand that for the most part, you don't want large feedback, and I get that. Peter, maybe you were going to comment on that, because if we have this April 13th date that we now know of, but didn't quite, then so by next Friday, we would want to have everyone's comments in, and probably be way before next Friday if we're going to have a special meeting. So
Yeah, I mean, I was
just
going to
want to hear what people
suggest,
think about that. Yeah.
Sarah, to your point, I was going to suggest that we ask people to have comments back to Aaron Mannix by close of business Monday. Just read it this weekend and get the comments in. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. I think waiting till next Friday, we lose too many days potentially.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that we would wait till next Friday, because we can't have a meeting about people's comments with, yeah. What do people, can I just, a show of hands, is that enough time? Are you going to do it? And also, if you feel you're not going to do it, that's okay too. Not everybody has to read it over, although I guess ideally everyone would.
I mean, it's comprehensive. I read it relatively carefully, and I can't imagine I would have many, if any, substantive comments. But I have to say, I was really kind of blown away by it. So I think it's great. I may, upon more careful reading, have a comment, but just it makes the case.
Yeah, it's really good. It really is good.
It makes the case, Counselor. I think.
So this is where I'm happy to jump in. So if obviously,
we noticed
obviously,
you were pretty silent until then. Did we tell you that was April Fool's, what they just said?
I'm not going to stick around to find out. I'm leaving. So I would ask, I think Sarah and Aaron and Peter have done a great job of the close read editorial stuff. If people want something a little bit more bite-sized or something more digestible this weekend, I would suggest focusing on the goals and the implementation. So I think we sort of agreed on the goals. What Rachel and I added was just a couple of lines of narrative explaining the why of each goal. Like, why is this important to Madison, or why is this a worthy goal? Just to make sure that we captured that. And then to take a look at the implementation table at the end, which again, as Aaron Mannix said, sort of breaks down the tasks, assigns them to somebody, gives them a priority. And if you take a look at that, and if there's something wildly off or something should be a higher priority than we've given it, let us know. And I think that may be a little bit more digestible than to try to capture a missed semicolon.
John, will the appendix be, what will that look like, the survey results? Do you have your thoughts as to what, will that be something that we have to critique, or that's going to be pretty much boilerplate?
I think that's going to be taken. It's not going to be an analysis. Rachel wrote a little bit of, a very brief sort of snapshot of some of the survey results in the document itself. But the appendix is basically just going to be essentially a data dump from SurveyMonkey.
Okay, so I think we all have our charge. And so Monday, I don't know what close of business is. Is that always going to be 5 o'clock? For me, close of business is midnight. But I guess we'll say 5 o'clock on Monday. We're going to get all of our comments in. I do just want to, I don't know how many people were able to look through things, but I appreciated seeing the layout. That was really helpful. And I hate to be nitpicky, but here I go. The one thing is with the stock photos, it seemed like there was some stock photos of beautiful beach land, and it was very pretty. And maybe that's what they did in others. It made me nervous that people would look at it and say, I mean, this is our affordable housing document. This is not where we're thinking of building, on our beautiful lands and stuff. So I know it was just to give a flavor of Madison, but I thought maybe if we could, because it was like talking about affordable housing and it had a picture of like kayaks and so just, and then I wasn't sure that first picture, I just, like, you had a very small picture of some affordable housing, and I some of our affordable housing is really beautiful. I know there's not a lot of it, but if we could have some like beautiful pictures of Concord Meadows, or even like a picture of residents at Concord Meadows somewhere, and with, I think it would be really helpful in the affordable housing document to give a good face of affordable housing. And I feel like this may sound silly, but we all know that like so many people are going to look at the pictures and skim through the table. So those pictures might end up being more important. And I don't like the message of the beach there, because I feel like that could go wrong.
Well, I think some of the ideas and the photos that we do have some really nice photos of some of our affordable housing developments. Also some other multifamily developments. It's not only just affordable housing, but it's also the variety of housing. So we do have, some of the photos that are included are single family. Some show the beachfront houses. We also have, 67 Boston Post Road as an example. I did have, we have photos of the hearth. Photos of, the concept of multifamily on Bradley Road, even the general's residence. Some of these will get swapped out. I did some photos. They were very shadowy and dark, and I'm not thrilled with them anyways. But also, in our plan, we talk about how Madison is a desirable town to live in. And so highlighting some of those beautiful things that we do have in town, I think is important to include in the plan. Some photos of our downtown, our amenities, such as our parks or our beaches. So I think we will see some of those in there, not to overpower, but just to kind of snapshot our community specifically. But all the photos are of Madison developments as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And maybe just, to the extent you have the beach, then you have a caption, Madison's a desirable place to live, or something like that. So it's not like, you were explaining what affordable housing is, and then you've got like these expanses of, land that nobody wants to see touched. That's all I'm saying. And because we do have affordable housing, and David Fink has sort of said how powerful it is to take these pictures of nice affordable housing and show like, this is what it actually looks like. This is a great opportunity to do that. That's all. And the pictures to me are almost more important than the words when I think about people who are going to flip through it, so.
Yeah, I mean, we are sort of limited on the number of affordable housing developments we have.
But not on the pictures we can take of them. And if you look at other places, so if you feel like the whole thing's going to be 15 pictures, you could have 2 pictures of Concord Meadows. You could have 2. I'm just saying in terms of making it, and then I just would steer away from any of the multifamily housing that people were unhappy with, obviously, but yes, a picture of the downtown area. And sure, I don't mean to be nitpicky. I'm just thinking of the overall picture and the feeling that it's going to give people. That's all.
So I would also, Aaron Maddox has been great about getting us some pictures. We don't need to sole source this. If you guys are out and about and you want to take a picture yourself, please do. You're in Madison, you know what you want to see.
My guess is that these places, the places that have developed it, like Concord Meadows, for example, they're going to have some good pictures. So I'm happy to reach out to a few places and say, do you have some, like good quality pictures? Because I'm not sure we all want to be taking them on our iPhones,
Yeah, Concord Meadows would be helpful. I think that development,
like residents, a picture of,
it's challenging to get nice, bright photos of that. Don't areas that need maintenance. They weren't highly attractive.
No. We'll see what we can do. The one thing I'll say is the one single family home that you showed, really, It's really, it's a big house. So
Well,
I
that's
don't
kind
think-
of indicative of our town. You know, 90% of our housing is single family.
Right, but that
home,
single
so
family home
that's-
was a, you know,
So Aaron, one picture you could take, you could go to the Wellington and take a picture of that as is right
I have a
now.
picture
Oh,
of
you do?
Wellington.
Okay.
So
Because the rest of it's
do.
going to look like that when it gets built.
Right, and some of that I have even from the Liz's website, you know, some
Okay,
of those
okay, cool,
photos.
cool.
Or, yeah, so even concept drawings from the, I was looking into some variety. But that was the goal, was to kind of give a picture of what our housing is. And we do have quite a variety of housing, and it wasn't, you know, driving around Sunday morning at 7:30 looking for photos. You know, well, before anybody was out and about, I got an opportunity to see a lot of these, and some are tucked in, you don't even realize they're there. But I think the historic house was kind of nice also, because our town does have a historic charm to it as well. And that can also be indicative of this concept of perhaps these larger historic homes that could possibly be repurposed into more than one unit. Anyways, but yeah, all that, you know, once that layout comes out on Friday, I would love your feedback as well.
and then I just have a question, and maybe it's for Al. John and Rachel, I really liked how you put in the why, you know, in the goals. One thing we talk about are things that are just going to cost, right? And that one thing we say is this should be in the budget. So Al, and maybe this is for you too, Peter, I don't know, is that gonna, I mean, that's just, it's like you want to create affordable housing, you probably need to spend some money creating affordable housing. I didn't know though, is that something that the Board of Selectmen might be unhappy to see in the goal?
I'm happy to attempt an answer, and I hope Erin Duquesne also provides her thoughts on this, but I think the selectmen asked you to come up with your best thoughts about how to move this community forward. And so I think we want the unvarnished truth. We obviously are going to focus on the recommendations, as will the media and the public. And I think the pluses and minuses of moving forward need to be clearly articulated. And I don't think anybody's going to be shocked if there's going to be some dollar signs attached to moving forward. So I would urge this committee to not pull any punches, but give us your best thoughts as to how to move this community forward. Erin Duquesne, you may have another view on this, but I think the committee should hear from you.
As far, I missed Sarah's question because there's some work going on here. I did hear your response, Al. Sarah, can you just repeat it?
Just that some of our, in our terms of our goals, it says, this should come from the municipal, or it should be in a budget line, or it should be, it's just about the money, quite frankly. And yeah.
And so you're asking if.
I just didn't know if the Board of Selectmen is, I just didn't want that to be a sticking point, that we have some things in there that are going to cost,
I don't think necessarily at the board. I do think that it's going to raise questions for people. And that's why I think that we need to articulate adequately the reasons for our recommendations in that regard and what it means.
Yeah, I guess that's all I was thinking. So, and John has already said that we should pay particular attention to that section. So I feel like, the goals that we've all come up with, I think this committee wants to feel like you can really explain what each item is. And that might feel something you can't do right now. So I think, part of our special meeting is to really make sure that we all understand all of the goals that we're actually putting forth.
You're
Because I
saying,
think,
are you saying put a price tag against those actually the recommended items? I mean,
No, there's no price tag, but those recommended items, some of them cost money, and we're saying like it should be in the budget, and then we should have matching grants, and we should, there's things that we say of, there's no
Right.
price tag. And I
Right.
guess what I'm saying is, your neighbors and friends, and at a public hearing, people are going to say, first, explain the need, and I think we've done that adequately, and we need to keep doing that. And then they're going to say, tell me more about this, this grant that you might give to people who are first-time home buyers. Like, is that from our money or is that not from our money? And I
Mhm.
just want us all to be able to understand each of our goals,
Right.
and
And-
be
and
able
who-
to articulate where that money might go towards.
yeah, I think that strikes me as an inherently political question, right? And that's a board of selectmen. This is the recommendation. It's well reasoned, well laid out. The recommendations are comprehensive and clear. And so I can't imagine it's our job to even talk about the potential costs to this. This is the selectmen's job, right?
Well, let me say it like this. We're not talking about the specific costs, but if you look at, and maybe I had a chance, if you look back at our goals, there are
Yeah.
costs associated with it. And what I'm saying is, and maybe it's just, I'm coming off of, a temple build of $8 million, and you can believe that people want to know, if you're going to start to build a building, what are the different things? Why do you believe it's important? And I can articulate all of those reasons. So if you're going to say, not like we're putting $1 million or putting 10,000, we're not saying the money, but if you're saying, we think that the town of Madison should spend some money on this. And then if I said, hey, Chad, could you tell me about goal number 3 and why you think Madison needs to spend some money? I just want to make sure we all feel like, well, let me tell you about goal number 3. This is what it could do for the town of Madison. Does that make sense, Matt? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, it's different than what I thought you said before. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying a price tag. I'm saying if these are the goals that this committee is saying we should spend money on, then we should all feel well-versed in the goals and feel good about them. Like if you were at a cocktail party, being able to explain it to your neighbors. I know we don't do cocktail parties anymore, but
It happens to me every night, by the way. I explain this to my neighbors at my cocktail parties.
It's the opposite of the elevator talk or whatever, it's like, I'm just making us aware that we are the committee putting forth these goals. That's what I'm trying to say. And these goals have money attached to them. So I just want to make sure we all understand the goals. That's what I'm saying.
and it's interesting because in our survey, the majority of people said that they believe the town has an obligation to create opportunities for others who may not be able to afford. Well, 47% said yes, 41% said no. We didn't ask anything about the town funding any kind of affordable housing, which probably would have been interesting, but just to kind of put that out there for food for thought.
May I ask a question that might, all right, so say, we're gonna do this. And there was property down past where, it's across from the Wellington on the corner there, there's like a lot of empty space. All right, so say you said, okay, that area is a good area to put some affordable housing in. We decide that, not we, but whatever the new committee will be. Then we have to go look for builders who, how does that happen? Then, you pick an area, you think, okay, affordable housing should go in there. We're not saying the town is going to buy that property, are we? Not we again, but Sarah, do you understand my question? Where people are going to say, okay, all right, well, let's do that. Is there a builder that already is interested in doing this and buying the property and getting it rolling? How does it happen? This is like a really basic question I'm asking as a town person. Anybody want to go for that answer? Heather?
Karen or John or
I'm only
Rachel,
kidding,
do
Heather.
you want to answer. I mean, what you're talking about is how does one create affordable housing?
No, you all know, I want, you were talking about the money aspect, the price tag on this, okay?
Well,
So in a sense, I've been thinking about that as I'm thinking, all right, yeah, we need to do this and we need to get builders. In the very beginning, when I jumped onto this committee, there was a affordable housing person that came and spoke to us. Isn't that correct? And how they get involved in different towns, putting in affordable housing. I just wondering what the process is for then. And once we all decide, the town says, yes, we have to do this, then how does it actually materialize?
but
Sorry.
I think it depends on if you're looking at a town-owned property or
That's
privately
true.
owned property.
Absolutely.
There's some other steps, and the town has to go through particular process for acquiring property, including town meeting. For example, in Guilford, we had an affordable housing project that the town had the land. They went out for proposals for affordable housing development, a builder to partner with, as well as architects to help design the project. So it was a very
Okay.
public process in identifying the property and then going through a
Okay.
process of interviewing different.
Well, my question was really more to do with
Big funding is a big thing as well, but
No, I know, but
Maybe
Wendy,
what?
I think number one, you should read the goals that we've all come up with, because, sorry, I apologize. That might, so what I was saying is with some of the goals that we've come up with, we also have given some ideas of what to do with budget. I think your question is a difficult one to answer because there's 1,000 different ways it can happen, and maybe not 1,000, but there's many different ways it can happen. And part of our job was to come up with some ways to promote this. I mean, and so it depends what we put in place in terms of what would be the next step. And it depends, who might be coming in. We heard from Hope that they come in and they do things on their own with some partnerships in different ways. And that can look like tax abatement, or it could look like different things. And so I guess I don't think anyone could give one answer to your question. And the point of our recommendations is these are a lot of different ways to create these opportunities. Does Aaron and John and Rachel, does that make sense, or can you?
I guess, may I
some
just clarify
thought?
my question just for one more minute was for property that is not town owned. Because remember we were saying you can't just say, oh, that would be a good spot. And then we haven't gone to that person that owns the property and said, are you willing to sell this property so that we can do this? That was kind of what my question was more about, that type of a property, not the property that's town owned, because then right there, that aspect, we already have that. Then we take it from there, but it's okay. We don't have to answer it right now. I know this is I'm just talking as a person that lives in this town that might not know what the heck anybody's talking about and might ask this question that would appear to be very naive and not, and I am naive. So I'm not pretending to know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just here to offer questions as the ordinary man off the street, okay? And as a senior citizen that does live in town, and I'm representing the senior commission. So that's the whole reason I'm here, is to ask that type of a question. So, and I will read the goals. I am going to read the goals. That will definitely help me. But that's why I brought the question up, and I think it's been sufficiently answered for me. So thank you.
Okay. I was just going to add that, as Aaron said, there are a whole variety of techniques. There's a whole variety of goals, and there's not a single answer to how should we fix affordable housing in Madison. So I think that the first thing when someone comes up to you and says, what are you guys talking about? How are we going to do this? The answer is, it's not a single thing. And there's a bunch of different ways to attack different aspects of this. And, obviously the town-owned land is one thing, changing the regulatory structure. So people are a little bit more enabled or incentivized to create housing of a certain type. Yeah. If, you change the regulations, developers all of a sudden say, oh, okay, this housing project is possible here where it wasn't possible last year. Or now there's an incentive for it or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of answers. And the idea is this is not a silver bullet. It's not a single fix. So, I don't know. That's
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you.
And Wendy, I think it is an important question. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, and this is awkward but true, we have a consultant who's put forth some ideas, and we tried to vet some of those ideas, and time is limited, and we understood some and not others. And now we have a collection of those ideas. And so as the committee, we've jumped from the people who are going to ask the questions to the people who are actually recommending these goals. So if we don't understand them, and I'm not sure we understand each and every one of them, then I think that's where we use our consultants to really help us understand each and every one of those goals, so that when people, that's exactly what I was saying, when you're saying this is what the average person is going to ask, I agree 1,000%. And now we've sort of switched hats from the average person to the people who are actually making these recommendations. So if we don't feel good about the recommendations or don't quite understand them all, then I think next Friday is really our chance to say, like, is this a recommendation we really want to put forth? Because when we do, this will be Wendy putting forth these ideas to her fellow citizens. And that's what, so that's, and so that's actually the wake up call I was trying. So I appreciate the question, is that, like, this is our report now. Yeah.
I wouldn't wait
Really
until,
Right.
I'm sorry, Wendy, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with Sarah. So we really have to understand it.
Yeah, and Aaron's going to say, don't wait until Friday. And I agree.
Yeah, tell us on Monday if you don't want something, because once
what I'm saying is
that
I'm saying something else is that we should take every opportunity in the next few days, all of us, to own this document and understand it. And to the extent we don't understand it, we have experts right here on this call. I am not one of them, who can answer these questions. And then if we don't like what we're hearing, then we take that goal out or we add a goal, so.
Okay. Al? Well, I'm not running anything.
Yeah, Wendy, I would like to give you a rather philosophical answer to what I think was a very profound question you asked. I think the responsibility for the next step falls on the elected leaders in this town to review the implementation section of this report and the recommendation section of this report, which I think our consultants have laid out very neatly. And it's up to us to now show it to the public, hear what the public has to say, and then the elected leaders need to do what they were elected to do, which is lead, which is to say this becomes part of the agenda for this town government. And there are all different kinds of recommendations and implementation suggestions. We probably can't do 100% of them, but I think it's up to the selectmen to figure out these, this subsection are the ones we're going to move forward on at this time. I would also urge our colleagues who are appointees to the Planning and Zoning Commission to do the same thing, to look at these recommendations and to exert some leadership. These are the things we need to change in our town in order to encourage a public good, in order to further social justice. So I think this committee's work is invaluable, but then the mantle gets transferred, the ball gets handed to elected and appointed officials to begin to take action.
Okay. Thank you,
Al, you got my vote, man.
Because he's telling you, you don't have to worry about articulating it. The elected officials will. No.
Thank you. That was a good answer.
I totally agree. This is, what Rachel and John and Aaron have done is, and all of you guys is tremendous. Now it really is about leadership. And I really believe that deeply. I really, anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Just
so
to ask, could I just ask, so is it, if we are reading this on our own, is it okay if we have questions that we email John, Aaron, Rachel directly in our reading of this? Because,
Yeah, of course.
rather than, we don't have time to come back all together and discuss all our questions.
right, I think
Absolutely.
on Friday, when we come back together, it won't be the time to have all of those answered. However,
Yeah.
if John and Rachel and Aaron see that, 5 people have asked the same question, that might be one where we
Right.
talk about it for a minute and talk about whether we're keeping that goal or changing, or make sure everyone understands. That's all. So I think we have our next steps. I heard Aaron say that this meeting is going to be on the 13th. And Aaron, I didn't hear the time because I actually have a meeting that night.
Okay, so I don't know, Al, if you could tell me, I don't know what time was floated to the Board of Selectmen. I thought we.
7 p.m.
initially- Is it 7
p.m.
Yeah, okay, that would work for P and Z Commission. I know, just for your reference, I know that John is not available to join us. I am available.
This is the 13th Wednesday?
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Is this an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting? Because I'll be in Florida.
It can be a hybrid meeting, actually.
I'm sorry,
so-
but John, you're not available on that day?
No,
I am not, unfortunately. I have 3 other meetings I have to try
Yeah,
to
no,
figure out.
I understand. I'm sorry to say, but, and I don't know if others feel this way. I think Peter and I share this, that John would be sort of a crucial person at this meeting, if not the crucial person at this meeting. So I don't like that date if John can't make it. That's just my personal. Do others agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sarah, I think, John, you're our hired consultant. You've done this many times. You bring a lot of credibility to the process. So I think your presence is probably important. So we might, and that's not taking away from any of the rest of us who are doing this, but we're not experts.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I have a lot of faith in Aaron and the committee to handle this, but yeah, I apologize. 13th doesn't work for me. I provided some dates that work the following week with Aaron. I don't know if any of those are possible, but.
so I can float some of those dates and see what other conflicts there may be, and also just to keep in mind that the time frame for the 35-day posting. So I'll look at that again and see if that 13th can be pushed back. It can't be pushed earlier. I don't
So
know.
Aaron, just to be clear, the 35 days goes from June 1st, or when does it go from? Like, can we just?
The public hearing date, Sarah, so.
When do we, I had originally thought we had to have this approved by the end of June, but now, then I heard June 1st.
It's June
right?
1st.
Yeah.
June
So
1st
June
is.
1st, and so you need 35 days.
I think we were looking at the May, is it a 23rd meeting for Board of Selectmen, although they can have a special meeting. Is it the
So, okay, so
24th?
you're looking at May 23rd. I got you.
But it could be a special meeting, even the following week if we had to. Well, Monday, so we have Memorial Day weekend, so we just have to look at some availability of other dates, perhaps that week for a special meeting, and then we count back our 35 days.
So forgive my ignorance, but is it 35 days that people have to comment, or is there actually a date then that we would hold a hearing?
Both. So the 35-day counting back is from the date of your scheduled public hearing.
I got you. Okay.
That's just when the document needs to be available for public review.
Yep.
And in the clerk's office, on the website, wherever. It just, you know.
So, I mean, you can We were trying to have it reviewed at least and presented to the boards, Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Selectmen prior to posting it, but
Sure.
there's
No,
some
that's important.
flexibility. The one, we were hesitant to do meetings during that spring break week of April 18th because we thought many people may be out of town.
Sure.
But we can see perhaps those will work. We'll see what we
Would there
can do.
be another day in that week that we've chosen, or is it, you know what I mean? Another day in that April 11th through 15th week?
That's a tough, I mean, speaking for me personally, that's a tough
Well,
week,
and
but-
it
but
is for you personally, so then it wouldn't be worth.
unless we're talking about like a 6 o'clock versus, but it's still, it's rough.
We can't just look at the last week in April, because the last week in April is the week after spring break.
That won't give us enough time, is what Aaron's saying.
And so if I
Maybe that will be, maybe we'll just post a document and
you could
schedule a public
right.
hearing and do an informational meeting in the middle.
The other thing, and I mean, I don't want to complicate this unnecessarily, but that June 1st deadline is it's in the state statutes, obviously, but there is zero penalty if you don't hit the June date. All it means is you need to write a quick letter to OPM to say, we're still working on this, we'll get it done by July, and that's it. So if you can't hit June, no one's going to come and take away your voting rights or something like that. It's so yeah, it is technically the law, but all you need to do is write a letter saying we're still working on it.
I mean, that's a very fair point. I know it's getting late, and so
And
I think
I'm
we
sure
have a
we'd like to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would be too bad to miss the June first date, but I appreciate what you're saying, John. I really do. And, maybe Peter and I have to give up this idea that you should be there. I don't know.
No. I don't think so. I don't think you should give up that idea. That's my opinion.
Right. Well, we'll look at
Have
some
a
of the
magic
dates.
feather that you can hold on to, and you will be able to run the meeting yourself.
Dumbo. I will look at the dates that John sent and start trying to coordinate another
Okay, all right.
alternative.
John, who knew we had this much faith in you, right? See?
It's frankly a little disturbing.
Aaron,
And
when this goes to the Board of Selectmen or Planning and Zoning, when they're there, we don't have to have a quorum, do we?
well, it would be nice to have as many participants.
I think everybody will make it,
possible.
but since it's an off date, I mean, do you have to have a quorum for both of those groups?
Do you have to?
Yeah,
No, it's just going to be noticed anyways,
Okay.
as a joint meeting. Likely because of the hybrid ability, we'll likely have a quorum for both.
okay, all right, good.
That is the goal, to have as much participation as possible. The one thing I just wanted to confirm, I know it is getting late, everyone's availability to meet next Friday to go over the format. We'll
This would be
hopefully-
Friday.
That will be a Zoom.
8:30.
Yeah.
At 8:30, yep, same as today.
All right, I will be driving to Florida, so I won't be driving. My husband will be at that point, so I can do a Zoom call. So, right, still,
Okay.
that should work.
Maybe by a show of hands.
If that doesn't work, we can always look to Monday, the 11th.
So I
you know.
saw Peter say yes and
So-
Chad say yes. Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll try.
I think we're good.
Okay, good.
We're good. Yeah. And I know we have to notice that up because it's a special meeting, and you've got that, Aaron?
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, maybe Aaron, you just see what's doable in that week. And if it's not, then we just figure out what we're going to do so that we hit the right dates.
Sure, we'll just restructure a little bit. We'll figure it out. Not a problem.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you to everyone for reading these documents over this weekend. I appreciate you in advance. And thank you, John and Rachel and Aaron, for getting this out to us and for keeping us on our timeline, which we were slightly off. And so I really, really appreciate it. I think, have we covered everything? Does anyone have any questions or no? All right. Well, with that, I think we should adjourn and I'll see you all next week.
Okay,
everybody. Have a nice
Bye.
weekend.